All right, last thing I want to talk about here is the backup quarterback. Dangly keys to any football fan. I mean, you got Lamar Jackson going on. You got Derek Carr going on. Aaron Rodgers has emerged from the darkness. That's going on. The Steelers have their own quarterback situation right now. It's Mitch Trubisky, and what the hell do you do with them? I think things possibly got easier for the Steelers. Now, I don't know if you've read this, but Tim Benz out of the Trib Live dropped a report a couple of days ago saying that Mason Rudolph is open, quote unquote, open to a return to the Steelers if Mitch Trubisky is gone. Did you read the story? Because if you read the story, it's much less Mason Rudolph is open to return to the Steelers, and it's much more if I have no other option and my choices are to go to the USFL or the Steelers, I will return to the Steelers. But we'll ignore that and just act as if it's a possibility. If Mason Rudolph does not get a really strong backup gig somewhere, and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, it's the easiest call you can make to say, get rid of Mitch Trubisky and bring back Mason Rudolph. Do you feel the same way? How do you feel about the situation?
Yeah, I did not read the report. I saw enough people talk about it on the timeline. The backup quarterback situation, as I've said on here, just does not interest me as much as it does other people. I know the backup quarterback is always like the most popular person in the fan base, but
yes.
In terms of, do I think Mason would make sense as a backup? I'm completely fine. Like if he wants to be here and that's what he wants to do, he wants to stay in Pittsburgh and be a backup. That's cool. We know that last offseason, like he was really adamant about, like he felt like he was a starting quarterback in the league and wanted to have the, have the option or have, be in some sort of competition to where he was going to be able to win a job. I doubt that that's going to be out there elsewhere, but maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe he feels like, he can go sit. There's going to be other NFL teams with a more likely starter to get benched than Kenny Pickett. So if he goes out, I'll just throw this out there, like Miami. Like Tua's obviously got a lot of issues. He's had a bunch of concussions. I don't know if he's necessarily a fit there or whatever, but like he could go look at spots like that and say like, okay, I've got a better chance of getting on the field next year here than I do in Pittsburgh. And that's where I'd rather go. I would be surprised if Mason's first choice would be to stay in Pittsburgh. If it was, signing him to a perfectly fine, solid backup quarterback deal does not bother me one bit. I would prefer that over paying Mitch Trubisky what he's on the cap for next year. I think personally, I gave this take on Twitter a couple weeks ago and people are all up in arms. But I think if you are paying a backup quarterback the amount of money that Mitch is making next year, you are forfeiting some of the advantages of having a rookie scaled quarterback contract. Yes. And what I mean by that is like, for instance, Lamar stays in Baltimore next year, they're going to be paying, X number of money on the cap. You look at what the Steelers are going to be paying Kenny Pickett, you have a cap advantage there. And by having a backup quarterback making as much as Mitch is, you're still allocating a bunch of money to the position and you lose some of that advantage. And I think like it would probably be more wise to just roll with Mason if that option's on the table. And I don't know who knows what's real, what's not. I hope that, they get something figured out. I do not have any interest in Mitch Trubisky being on the team next year. His current cap hit though.
No, I don't either. And I think that if the Steelers are going to use the excuse of, well, he's comfortable with Kenny Pickett and we don't want to hurt Kenny Pickett's development and he's a good mentor, that's a terrible excuse. But if we're going to say that's fine and dandy, well, here you go. Here's your out. Here's your way to escape that. Go sign Mason Rudolph, or at least offer him something and say, hey, come back on, what does a backup quarterback make? $2 million a year? Come back on $2.5 million a year over the next 2 years. Come to Pittsburgh. You already know Kenny Pickett. There's the relationship. There's the mentorship that you were looking for. Mason Rudolph is a true professional, has been a true professional his entire career. Get rid of Mitch, save a boatload of money. It makes perfect sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. For Mason Rudolph, it doesn't make any sense at all, unless he doesn't get a better job somewhere. Or I'd like put it in my contract that when Matthew Stafford goes down in week 7 or Tua goes down in week 2 or Daniel Jones goes down or whoever, that the Steelers actually make an attempt to trade Mason Rudolph. Because what they did last year when the Rams were working with whoever as their quarterback before Baker Mayfield, and Carolina was working with, whoever through BJ Walker at some point throughout the season, and Mason was just sitting there on the bench and they weren't even trying. That's where the issue was. That's when the Steelers did him dirty. And if they could work that out where they say, okay, we will get rid of you if you have an opportunity, I think it works out for both sides. And I'm not for the whole notion of, oh, well, you got to have a good backup quarterback to mentor your second year quarterback. No, that's.
But I think,
no.
but I think even then, I think Mason could be that. I mean, he's
Mason
been
is
in the
that.
league.
I
He's a
think.
vet. So I
Yeah.
mean, I
And
don't.
he
I think
knows
that checks
Kenny.
the box.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying is I think it's the perfect out for the Steelers to use that excuse and say, hey, well, this is our option. We'd like to do that. And, here it is. Get rid of it. Because spending $10 million on a quarterback on a backup quarterback it's just dumb. Like, it's just dumb. And
You
especially,
could
what if Kenny
probably
doesn't
get
work out?
Mason for about half of that.
Yeah, half. You think you're getting Mason for 5? I think you're getting Mason for 2.5.
I think Mason would probably take like a 2-year, like $10 million deal to come back. And I think it's perfectly fine. You could do the cap hit for next year, be like $3 million. The year after, about 6.5, 7. The cap goes up. That's completely fine.
Yeah, I
Cool
agree.
with that.
But I think it makes so much more sense. And then hope that like Hendon Hooker slides to the 5th round and go draft Hendon Hooker. And then he got a backup on top of a backup. And he feels totally fine. How bad is it though? Do you just does the script completely flip on how people feel about Mason Rudolph? And I think this is a good way to end here. If they re-sign Mason Rudolph to be the backup and then they draft a quarterback that beats him out. That is how do you
it would be a hell of a
respect?
way for him to go out for sure.
That would be awful. Like, that would be, if you're a Steelers fan still bagging on Mason Rudolph, if that happened,
But we know they're going to at least bring in like a priority free agent.
They're going to bring in somebody.
I hope
they're
they
going to
don't
need
draft
a
one, but I mean,
you don't want. See, I kind of feel that they should draft one. You don't think that?
No, I don't. That the Oladokin pick last year still sets.
No, it shouldn't be Chris Oladokin. It should not be a Chris Oladokin.
It kind of sets me on fire a little bit. Not gonna lie to you.
Oh, that was the worst pick of all time.
It's hard to watch.
Got Brock Purdy.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and they got all these 7th round picks. Balling out. Jalen Watson,
and then
Isaiah
Chris Oladokin sitting on their practice squad. Chris Oladokin got a ring.
And then the Steelers wasted a 7th on the backup quarterback that they had zero intentions to keep on the active roster.
Not a backup quarterback, a 4th string quarterback. They drafted somebody to say, "Hey, we won't even give you an opportunity to beat out Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky. You are just
bad
here."
Process.
Oh, it was awful. That was awful. Kevin Colbert is one of his worst picks. Was his last pick, and that was rough. But no, what if Hendon Hooker slid to the 5th round? You're not drafting him?
I mean, right now they don't even have a 5th round pick, so they have to get one.
Yeah, they have to wait till the 7th.
Yeah, I mean, or you can pay from next year's bank and see if anyone wants to trade you. They could trade it next year's 4th for this year's 5th or something like that. I probably wouldn't. I think they're gonna have too many other needs to invest in like a 3rd quarterback. Even though I think Hooker's he's an intriguing like developmental guy, but I'd probably invest my resources elsewhere. Honestly,
the Steelers love to invest their resources in backup quarterbacks. They've had a pretty good long list of them for a long time, but it's a story. We'll keep an eye on it, no doubt. Mason Rudolph is probably listening to this somewhere, praying and hoping that anybody gives him an offer day 1 of free agency, so that he has an excuse never to come back to the city of Pittsburgh. But we enjoyed your time here. Thank you very much.